cross, Jesus showed who was boss. Right. And we're having lots of fun. I found the house that we're working on. Right, there's a picture of the windows on the back. We've got the back somewhere installed, and we had a leak, so I was involved in getting under the back to find said leak. So I have advanced from the oft-quoted sitting on my backside to lying down on the job. So that's an improvement in life. I get more rest now. So there we are. We're on John chapter 15 in a minute. So my first great news, my mate to work for Unilever at the fabric conditioner production line. He worked there for 7 years. He knew everything there was to know about fabric conditioning, knew what went into it, and the quantities. He knew the speed of flow. He knew how to readjust the machine that comes out of the arm and puts the lid on the bottle when it's been filled and everything. And they moved him to a different part of the factory, to a different thing. I said, how are you getting on? He said, I'm all right, but I'm out of my comfort zone. Anyway. So, Gospel reading this morning, as you still on the screen, yes, jolly good, is John chapter 5, verses 1 to 15. John chapter 5 from 1, the Gospel reading. After this, there was a feast of the Jews, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem. Now there is in Jerusalem by the sheep gate a pool, which is called in Hebrew Bethesda, having 5 porches. In these lay a great multitude of sick people, blind, lame, paralysed, waiting for the moving of the water. For an angel went down at a certain time into the pool and stirred up the water. Then whoever stepped in first, after the stirring of the water, was made well of whatever disease he had. Now a certain man was there who had an infirmity, 38 years. When Jesus saw him lying there, and he knew he already had been in that condition a long time, he said to him, "Do you want to be made well?" The sick man answered him, "Sir, I have no man to put me into the pool when the water is stirred up, but while I am coming, another steps down before me." Jesus said to him, "Rise, take up your bed and walk." And immediately the man was made well, took up his bed and walked. And that day was the Sabbath. The Jews therefore said to him who was cured, "It is a Sabbath. It is not lawful for you to carry your bed." He answered them, "He who made me well said to me, 'Take up your bed and walk.'" Then they asked him, "Who is the man who said to you, 'Take up your bed and walk'?" But the one who was healed did not know who it was, for Jesus had withdrawn, a multitude being in that place. Afterwards Jesus found him in the temple and said to him, "See, you have been made well. Sin no more, lest the worst thing should come upon you." The man departed and told the Jews that it was Jesus who made him well. Amen. Gospel reading. Now, this is an interesting passage. Well, most of the Gospels are interesting passages, especially to me, so I love them. So, it says, the man was healed at the pool of Bethesda. We're not absolutely certain that it was Bethesda. Bethesda means house of mercy. It may have been adjusted in early translation to house of mercy. We're pretty sure, looking at the sort of architecture and what's this, that it was Bethesda, which is called the House of Olives. But to call it Bethesda, a house of mercy, is sort of seemingly logical, if you like, and the early translation may have adjusted that. There's a bit of a sort of discussion going on amongst the theological types about whether this is actually happened at all, or was always allegorical in nature. And there's a whole thing that's been written that the man is significant of Israel. The 5 porches are about the law and the Pentateuch, the first 5 books of the Bible, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. 38 years that the guy been waiting there was analogous to the 38 years that the Israelites were wandering around in the wilderness prior to coming to the promised land, or possibly, and there's a bit of a thing there, is it the 38 centuries between Moses and Jesus, and stuff like that, and that. But, I mean, personally, and in common with a lot of people, I don't think that gels with John. John is writing his gospel quite a long while after the other three. The other three were Jewish. They've got all the analogous stories and stuff. I'm pretty certain that there was never a guy with a plank sticking out of his eye. And that, so we know that some of the stories in the other Gospels were analogous to.
What does analogous mean?
It means something that it isn't. It just shows you. It shows that it's an analogy, analogous analogy. Sorry, I'm using big words here, aren't I? I'll try and use shorter ones like the story. So John was effectively being accused of making up stories, but John is more literal. He's looking back and going, what happened and stuff. He's writing back, and he's not particularly writing to Jews. And he doesn't go at the start of his gospel. He doesn't go rumbling on about son of, begat, and all that. I don't know why I have begats. There's not a lot of musketeers, but never mind. And all that. He doesn't need to explain to Jews that Jesus is who Jesus is, because for 70 years there's a whole bunch of people who understood that Jesus is who Jesus is. If you like, they said, no, he died on the cross and he's the Lord, he's the Son of God, and he rose, he went to heaven. So that's the good news. Anyway, the word they're using for Paul in Greek is kolumbithon, which sort of means to dive in. So it's a pool that you could dive into. This is not a puddle. This is not a font at which you're going to wet the baby's head. This is getting into the water. This is not just touching the water. This is to dive in. So that's why the bloke thought he had a bit of a chance. He was the first one to dive in, throw himself on his bed, but other people were diving in quicker. The bit about the angel stirring the water, there was lots and lots of local superstition at that time about stuff like that, and the demons and trolls under bridges and stuff, and it was. There's two things. One, verse 4, the angel stirs the water bit, isn't in some of the very early manuscripts. It's like somebody's added it after John's written it, but very, very early on, so like 20, 30 years after John's written it, the very earliest manuscripts, and we've got chunks of an AD 96 version of John. So that's pretty early. So it's not in the very early manuscripts, and it's more of a bit of an added explainer, if you like, as to why these people were doing this. Maybe it was a bit psychosomatic, and they really, really believed that the first person to touch water got well and stuff, but we're not sure. So, verse 5, 38 years. Now, in those days, pretty much, that's a lifetime. You're pretty certain this guy's been like this the whole jolly time that he's been alive, and it may not have been all that jolly. This is a lifetime, and this is also because when we're going into the supposed analogy to Moses, the reason that Moses was Israelites in 38 years, one of the reasons is so that effectively the people who came out of Egypt didn't get into the promised land. It was effectively their children who got into the promised land, because the older people would all have guaranteed to have died off by that point. And that, so 38 years was better than an average lifetime, if you like. So the guy has been like that the whole time. So, as is so often the case, particularly in John, Jesus states the even obvious and goes, do you want to be made well? Now, it's a fair question, actually, to be fair. The guy has survived the whole of his lifetime. What people generally are surviving have survived the whole of their lifetime, but he survived without filling in a pit form or that sort of thing, but he's also survived without having to work. He's got donations of food and money, and he's got pity, and he's probably got a bit of a position at home, all right? You know, people recognise him on the way past in and stuff like that. If he's there every day, people know him, and he's got some sort of status, even if it's not the sort of kind of status that you might sort of actually want as a person, but he's got that status. And the question that Jesus asks, do you want to be made well, harks us right back in Mark to blind Bartimaeus. And And blind Bartimaeus is parked at the side of the road when Jesus and his entourage are going past, and he's cried out, have mercy on me, O Lord, thou son of David. Now he's got it right. He's got it totally right. He's asking for mercy. He's asking God for mercy, and he's saying to Jesus, "You are the Lord, the Son of David." So he's got it in there. He doesn't have to be told anything. And then they bring him to Jesus. "What do you want me to do for you?" And the blind man said, "Rabbi, that I may receive my sight." And he's going, "Go on your way. Your faith has made you well." Now, so it's a fair question, because this guy here, Paul of Bethesda, we don't know his name, and this guy, he might not want to be made well. He might be all right, if you like. But he does, because he says, "Look, I try to get into the water, no one helps me, and I've got these queue jumpers. I am so," he almost unloads himself. You can imagine him going, "Look, mate, I can't get you. I'm so upset. Every time I get off my bed, I get myself up there, and I'm just about to tip myself over the edge into this water, post-angel stirring, then some queue jumper jumps in. I'm so frustrated." You know, Jesus, at this point, he doesn't give him the BBC lecture for small children on pointless superstition. He doesn't tell him it's all pointless. He doesn't tell him that's a load of old rubbish about the first sermon and what have you. He doesn't get frustrated with the guy. He meets his need. Now, and he says to him, "Look, rise, take up your bed and walk." Now, this is an action. This is an action word, and it's likely that Jesus will have reached down, offered his hand, given the guy the thing. So it's the act of faith. Hold on to my hand, your legs will be strong. Come on, you can do this. Now, the word that's employed in the Greek for his bed is krabatos, which translates as sort of pallet. This is not a great big, he's not brought a king-size divan with him to the pool. He's basically got his portable bed and his bed stretcher sort of thing. It's a bit like a sort of futon. In fact, it sounds like he got it from IKEA at Jerusalem, doesn't it? Get the new Krabatos futon with additional mattress in aisle 14, bay 12 from your brand new IKEA. So, take your bed and walk, and he's meeting the need here. And then, of course, my favourite bit, verse 9. Immediately the man was made well. There's no delay with Jesus, is there? There's no delay with the thing, and he meets the need immediately, but immediately he's made well because he has immediately taken the action proposed or suggested by Jesus. And it's to do with looking up and what have you. And then there's this immediacy, and I love the word, but I'm not too sure that I do it. You know, when Jesus proposes an action or thing, I'm not too sure that my response is immediate. She's really? Anyway, verse 10. I've got a love for Jews, haven't you? You've got to love them. This guy's been healed. I'm dropping into the pool. The guy been healed. So, what do we have? A praise party? Let's get the old tapes up, get the band out, let's have a praise party. No. We've got accusation, legalism, and condemnation. It is the Sabbath. It is not lawful for you to carry your bed on the Sabbath. And you're going like, oh, for goodness sake. I mean, can you imagine if church here this morning was like on the first song thing, and there was like hundreds of people in a big auditorium, we got going, and then we had the whole prayer at the front, people falling down and whatever, and then that'd be fantastic, that'd be great. But you could then just imagine some person who'd come in, parked his car outside in the disabled space, coming into the theatre, and then walking out, son's crutches, or leaving his wheelchair behind, or whatever, walking out. If the Jews were in charge, you get done by the traffic warden for illegally use of a disabled space. You're going like, oh dear, it's just like not fair, is it? You know, and then and that. So, but life isn't fair, is it? There's lots of things we do that we don't like. yesterday on my day off, I did all the relaxing things, like I got up and went to clean out the hen house, because shit happens, as they say, and in the hen house, believe me, it does, and it stacks up a bit. And you know, and the hens, I explained to you, hens, right? They don't everywhere. Basically, they sort of do a bit, but they mostly do it at night. They do it upstairs in the hen house bit, and they go up the ramp into the thing, and they're in the dark, and it's a shot in the dark, and basically they like it in the dark, like that, or nice sawdust down and stuff like that, and you've got to clean it out often. You don't want to leave it too long. If you leave it too long, there's too much of it. They get upset about it. You turn your backyard into an ammonia factory if you don't clean it out properly. And basically, this stuff in the hen house, you have to bring it out into the light and deal with it. You don't leave it to fester. Don't leave it to fester in the dark. And you bring it out into the light, and you put it in a nice heap with the wood shavings that it's all mingled in with. Sweep it out, and then you basically get the perch bit out. Take the perches out, and then you get in with a nice long brush and a scraper, and you basically get into all the corners, and you make sure that you've got it all out, and then you clean it down, and then you put in nice fresh bedding, a nice pack of bedding. Nice bit of bedding in there, put the perches back in, all bedding, all packed around them, and stuff like that, ready for a round two when they're coming back later that night. And you turn and the waste stuff you've got out, you turn it over and put it in a nice big compost heap, and you turn it over to let the air and the light in, and it breaks it down and deals with it, and it's brought out to the light, and it's manageable. And I get to thinking that that's like our lives, that we've got in there that needs to come out into the light. It's brought out into the light, not left to fester. We need to turn it over and break it down and manage it and get it out and scrape it out. So, the takeaways today. What do you want Jesus to do for you? And our response, immediately, or not immediately, is it our response is going to be, yes, I'll do that, or is our response a legalistic response, a derision? And then it's cleaning out the hen house of our hearts and bringing it out into the light where it can be dealt with and made fresh.
Thanks, Ian. That's great. Okay, we're going to see. I'm just checking the time there. See how many songs we can.
Plenty.
Plenty of songs. Yeah, we've got a bit of time, so yeah. Off we go.